Hello everyone, this is Dr. Sohail Borushaki and welcome to this new module 3 on manipulating spatial and tabular data. In this module, we take a closer look at the ArcPy data access module, which is arcpy.da for data access. We use this module for working with data, and in this module we will focus on cursors, which are used to iterate over rows in a table, standalone table, or an attribute table of a feature class. Different type of cursors like search cursors, they search records. We can, with different type of cursors, we can add new records and change them. And by records, in this case, we mean records that are related to features in a feature class or standalone records in standalone tables. Cursors, so what are they? Cursors are data access objects to iterate over a set of rows or records, or we use these data access objects to insert a new row. A cursor itself is a database technology term for accessing a set of records. We have three types of cursors in ArcPy data access. The one that we use a lot is a search cursor. This type of cursor, they find the specific records and give us some information. The records that, the information from the records that they get are only readable type of records. They only read and give us information on the geometry and attribute values of all records or a set of records. Update cursors, we use them to update and delete existing records or attributes within a record. And insert cursor, we use them to add new rows, new features, or rows in a standalone table. So how we use this one, we create cursors using ArcPy data access module, which is basically arcpy.da. So we do that. Let's first look into and learn about search cursors. Search cursor gets row values. That's all it does. These values in this cursor are read-only values. So I cannot use search cursors to change values. I just use them to read values and get information. The syntax for it, as you can see here, it is search cursor, and I have two required parameters. One is which attribute table or standalone table I would like to read, and what fields I would like to get the information from. In search cursor and all cursors, basically these two are required. And how this one works, so I have to give the name of the feature class or a layer or a table or table view for in table, and then I can give a list of fields, or simply I can use an asterisk instead of a list of fields. An asterisk, the meaning is give me all the fields, so I don't want to select from. Let's first look at this cell. We will run this cell. I will explain, however, what is the meaning of each line later on. So in this cell, first I imported my ArcPy, and my OS module. Then I assign a land parcel's feature class name to this variable, and I have my land parcel in my geodatabase somewhere. It must be here, and here it is. It is my land parcels. Then I would ask ArcPy, go and from data access module, this is extremely important, you go and get that access module, and then search cursor. I would ask ArcPy to create a search cursor for this feature class and for all fields. So I pass asterisk as a string. The meaning is go create a cursor for all polygons and all fields for me. Then go and look into the cursor, get each row and print each row value for me. So now I have values 0 to 11. Then I delete my row, and then I delete my cursor to remove the locks on my feature class, and then I end the script. Of course, these are all new to you guys. We don't know what are these things. Let's run this one and see what happens. Before I run it, I go and take a look into my land parcels feature layer. In this case, I open the attribute table. I see that I have object ID field. Let's sort it ascending. There you go. I have object ID, I have shape, I have land parcel, zone, tax values, information UID, and a new value, right? So I have all these information here. So let's see what happens if I run this thing. So if I go and go shift enter, it reads all those attributes for every single feature. Look at this line. This first line, it is telling me that this is all the attributes related to the very first record. I open my attribute table one more time. Let's bring it down and investigate this one. This is the attribute table of the first record. This is telling me that object ID 1 here, I have this value, which is the value that I read from the shape field. Then it is commercial, it is telling me, then zone A, these are the values of tax 2004 and 2006 and so on. So I could read every single feature attribute values in this case, print them, and finish the script. So I could have access to every single feature attribute data. So let's go over this and find out what are each one of these lines of codes and how we use them in this case. So the first thing I did, I imported ArcPy and OS, of course. Then I assigned, as usual, the name of the feature class to this variable. Then I created a search cursor. I ask ArcPy, go use data access module and create a search cursor for my land parcel feature class based on all fields, right? So what is a cursor, in fact? A cursor, you can think of it as a table in the memory of our machine. So in this case, I created a table of all records. In this case, I have to change this. These are polygons. Of all 34 polygons and records in this case, all the records, and all the fields. So this line of code creates a table, an image of a table in the memory. We call it a cursor, and this looks exactly like this. It is all the rows or records and all the fields. When I have this cursor, then I can go over each row of it one by one and grab or extract these information. So when I create a cursor, I can go and have access to every single row of this cursor, right? However, so one more time, it is extremely important to understand that this line of code here, it means that create a cursor of all the rows and all fields, right? Which is an image of a table, basically. Then we can go and read every single one of these rows. How we do that? We use a for loop. In this case, a for loop, we go and create a row or assign a variable, call it a row, and we go and read every single row in this cursor. A row by itself is actually something, it is in fact a tuple, which is very close to a list that you already learned. And if a row is a list, then the very first, okay, something happened. The very first item in this row would be my first field. The second item would be my second field. And like in lists, this one, these are zero based. So my first field would be my zero item with index 0. So one more time, let's go over this. I create an image of a table. Then I can go and have access to each row using a for loop, and I go for a row in a cursor so I can have access to each row. Then I can get each field from a row. So I got this whole row, and then I grab the first item, which is my first field, and so on. So a row, in fact, it looks like this. This is a row, right? So it is tree, polygon, residential, zone D, and all that. How can I grab access to the first field? I would assign, these are indexed, and the first field is indexed 0. So I go a row, this whole thing, give me the very first item of it, which is the very first field. So I can grab the value of object ID. Then I can get the value of shape. I explain that later on. So in this case, I go back here and take a look at this one. Same thing. It is telling me that I go up actually. Here, I would say that this is my first field, second field, third field, and so on. So this is the object ID of the first record. What is this one? Look at this value. I'm going to open my land parcel attribute data again. And here is the shape. The second field is the shape field. However, ArcPy is giving me a tuple of numbers. What is that? A pair of numbers in this case. In this case, this is exactly the coordinates of the centroid of this polygon. Then it reads so instead of giving me all the shapes, it is giving me the centroid coordinates of this polygon. Then it gives me the value of land use, commercial here, the value of zone A, and so on. And it does it for every single row that I have. So basically it creates an image of this table, then grab the first one, and this whole row would be a tuple. and I can get items out of it by indices. Then it goes to the next one. That's why we have a for loop. It goes grab the next one and next record and so on till it gets to the end of this cursor or table. So to this end, let's notice something else. The very last value is none. It is giving me none. What is none? Look here, all the values in this new value, they are null, and the meaning of none in Python is same as null value. However, in this case, look at this one. All I need to get is, in this case, I don't need all these information. What I need is actually I need only a unique ID and the land use. So what I created here is, again, a search cursor of all polygons and of course all fields. How would I tell all fields? I would pass as second parameter an asterisk, which is wrapped by quotations. Then I would create in the print, instead of printing all those rows, I create an F string, and I would say that feature ID, and my ID is row 7, right? Give me a row ID, row 7, or better say item 7 in my row. And then land use is item 2 in my land use. This is 0, 1, 2, right? So I can get my UID and land use. If I run this one, I get feature ID 101, land use is this one. And I can get information and create sentences using this very simple method to read information using search cursors. In the next video, you will learn that there is no reason for us to read all the fields. If I only need UID and land use, why not only get value of UID and land use? Why should I grab all this row and then extract item 7, which is UID, and then item 2, which is land use? So we will learn that one in the next video. Okay, bye for now.